There we go. Welcome everyone to the next of our Comrades Marathon webinars for 2024. It is so good to have each and every one of you here. See, there's a whole bunch of people that are waiting and watching, have been introducing themselves already. I just want to make sure that everything is working 100% and that you can see me and you can hear me. If you wouldn't mind letting me know in the comments where you're joining us from, what part of the world you're in, and also let us know how many Comrades you've done. If it's your first one, or if you've done it down and this is your first up, maybe you're going for your 10th, maybe you're going for a double green. We'd love to know that as well. So please do let us know in the comments. And a big welcome to everybody here today. Welcome to Gregory from Pirates. Welcome, Gregory. Nice to have you on. I see Carol Jarvis is joining us from Pinetown. Hi, Carol. Nice to have you with us today as well. Alistair from Randburg was fastest fingers first. Welcome, Alistair. Good to have you on as well. Looks like everything is working 100%. Johan Hennings joining us. He's a novice. Welcome, Johan. Hendricks joining us as well, which is brilliant. Eric's in Honeydew. We've got Johan in Lichtenburg. Welcome, Johan. Molweni from Letta and Kobecha. Welcome to you as well. Letta, nice to have you with us too. So it looks like everything is working exactly the way it should. I see Sandy's from Nelspruit. 6 Comrades. Brilliant. Looks like everything is working the way it should. So just want to show you and introduce you who we are going to have on our panel this evening. Obviously, the official Comrades Marathon coach, Lindsay Parry, is going to be joining us. He's the official Comrades Marathon coach for the past 15 years, has been coaching professional and amateur athletes to PRs and podiums in some of the world's most prestigious races. He's led teams to 3 Olympic Games and the Commonwealth Games. He's got a Comrades Marathon PR of 2:45 and a Comrades PB of 7:11. My name is Brad Maddolt. For those of you who don't know me, I'm known as the guy who lost the Backstreet Boy en route to running his very first Comrades Marathon. I'm co-founder at coachparry.com. I've done 3 Comrades. I finished 5 Ironmans as well. Also joining us tonight is Nikki de Villiers. Nikki graduated as a dietitian at the University of Pretoria, and she completed a postgraduate diploma through the International Olympic Committee and has a master's degree in dietetics. She's been working in the field of dietetics for around 20 years and has been concentrating on sports nutrition in particular for the last 14. She consults to numerous professional sports teams, including PSL, professional rugby teams. She consults to the Comrades Marathon Association and also individual athletes at all levels. She works with a lot of amateur athletes, but has also worked with athletes all the way up to the Olympic level. Sifiso Ngoma is joining us tonight as well. He's the marketing coordinator for the Comrades Marathon. He's been the MC of the Stomp Awards in Cape Town, the assistant for the Pietermaritzburg City Marathon, and also the race director for the Green Trail Run. And then finally, so excited to have Comrades Marathon legend on the webinar this evening, Louis Massain. He's the first and only runner to have completed 45 Two Oceans ultramarathons, and he's also completed Comrades Marathon 48 consecutive times. He only missed 2022 due to injury. We're going to be chatting to Louis tonight, finding out sort of how he's going now, and he is back on. Is muted, which is quite weird. Sorry, I was saying I don't know how much of that you missed with regards to Louis. We're super excited to have him on, and we are going to be chatting all things Comrades Marathon with Louis this evening. So definitely excited to have him on. I think also, don't forget, we love questions throughout these webinars. So if you have got any questions, please do pop them into the chat, and we will be posing those to our guests for any of them. So if you want to ask Louis, Lindsay, Nikki, or Sifiso a question, you're more than welcome to pop those into the chat, and we'll get those answered for you this evening as well. So let's get our first guest on to the stage this evening, and we are going to be talking all things Comrades and Comrades housekeeping to get underway. And a very warm welcome to Sifiso Ngoma this evening. Sifiso, nice to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Brad. Good evening to all our runners all over the world, wherever you are joining us from. Welcome to tonight's webinar. As Brad has mentioned, my name is Sifiso. I am a marketing coordinator here at the Comrades Marathon Association. I have just a couple of few things that I will run through with you guys, and then let the Comrade coach take you through what you need to do and where you should be with your training, and also our dietitian to take you through, and of course later our legend. So for me tonight, I'm just going to tell you about our charities. Comrades Marathon has an arm which is called Amabidi Charities. This was established in 1996, and over the years since it was established, we have raised over 71 million rand, thanks to you runners who assist us to raise funds for our charities, and also to all those runners who donate with their entries and also purchase some stuff from our charities at the expo. So Amabidi charities, we have different ways how you can assist our charities. One being buying some stuff on our charities at the expo, or donation with your entry. When you're entering, you get an option where you get asked to donate to any of our official charities. And then number two is Raise for Charity, which I'm going to explain briefly after this. And then lastly is the Toyota Win a Car competition, which I will explain last. These are 6 official Amabidi charities: Community Chest, Sun Parks, Honorary Rangers, Childline KZN, Hillcrest Aid Center, Rise Against Hunger, and Childhood Cancer South Africa. They from different facets of life and deals with different difficulties that our communities are facing. So you can read more from Comrades website, what each charity do, and where they are based and what work are they doing, in order for you to find the one that is close to your heart to assist, or the one you can raise funds for. There are a few benefits in raising funds for our charities that I will mention here, but this is just a tip of an iceberg. There is a lot more that is a benefit by raising funds for our charities. Mostly to the people that are the beneficiaries, or people that the community and the communities where these charities are working for. Once we have committed to raise funds for any of these charities, they will welcome you with a gift at the expo when you come, as you are raising funds for them. Also, you will receive support and some encouragement, which is something every comrade runner, I believe, need, because the road to the Comrades Marathon start is quite intense, never mind from the start to the finish. So you really need that extra support that you will get and encouragement that you will get from our charities. Number two, I've mentioned this, you will be welcome with a hero's gift. And then number three, Comrades Marathon reserve 500 spaces for runners who will raise a minimum of 6,000 rand by the 6th of May to start on Seabedge. So with these benefits here, all you need to do is to get a bare minimum of qualifying, which is a sub 450 on a marathon, on a standard marathon, and then you don't start on H badge, which is apparently a badge that starts in Harwich, but you get to start closer to the starting line and get to start your race a bit earlier than people who are at the back. And then the last thing is the extra advantage on the race day, when you need when we have run so many kilometers, at some point your training will leave you on the road, so you will need that sense of purpose, or something where you will dig in deep in your heart to say, let me do this, maybe for this thing. It could be for your mom, could be for the kids that are supported by the charity. But raising funds for our charity give you that sense of purpose that encourages you on race day, when your training has taken you somewhere on the race, but not on the finish line. There are two ways you can join the Race for Charity. You can either use your computer or your cell phone. If you have a Comrades app, you can easily just go to the app and then sign in and then log into your EasyRage profile. If you are on your computer, you can also go to www.easyreg.co.za. Once you are on this page, you press in login, which is up there at the top. You will be required to put in your login details, the one that you've created when you were entering your race. If you have forgotten your password, which is something that happens quite a lot. We do get a lot of inquiries. People have forgotten their password. They don't. Some were entered by friends and then they do not know their login details. You're more than welcome to contact us so that we can assist you with those things. Once you are logged in, you will have to select your Comrades entry for 2024 and then go to dashboard. Once you are on your dashboard, when you scroll down, you will see Race for Charity. All you need to do is to click on join. Once you click on join, you will get a message that will ask you if you are sure if you want to raise funds for charity. Then you will confirm by clicking yes, and then you will be redirected to this page. There will be 4 things that will be required out of you. One is your profile image that will appear on your fundraising profile. Number 2 is the name of the charity that you would like to raise funds for. You are only allowed to select from the 6 official charity, and you can only join in the Race for Charity for 1 charity. And then you can write below that, you can write a message. Why is that charity close to your heart, or why do you like that charity? And then below that, this is the most important part where you set in your target, how much you would like to raise. You can set your target as big as you like or as small as you like. It's all about what is feasible for you to do. There is no shame in raising 500,000 or 6,000 rand or 8,000 rand. What matters is that every cent counts for our charities. And then below that, there is that section where there is yes or no. So charities from time to time will be in contact. As I've said, they will give you some tips. Could be how to fundraise or assist you or check on your status of fundraising if you need any assistance. If you would like charities to contact you, then you will have to click yes. If you click no, don't be surprised when you don't hear anything from the charity that you've selected to raise funds for, because according to Poppy Act, then you would have disallowed us to share your contact details with the charity that you are raising funds for. So you can just press yes there, and then once you save, you will receive a link within 10 minutes of saving that information. Then your name will be redirected to the list of runners that are fundraising funds for our charities. On the list of runners that are fundraising funds for our charities, what will appear is your full name, the name of the charity you're raising funds for, your targets, as well as the amount that we have raised. If we take a look at the first guy there, which is Nato Amaral, who's raising funds for Community Chest. His target was 30,000, but he has raised over 30,000 as it stands. So if you have set a target, you can either do raise way above your target, or you can raise to and stop your fundraising where you have set your target, or there is also not a problem in not reaching your target. As long as we have raised something, that's what we appreciate. What will it cost you as a runner, or what is expected from you once we have registered? As I've mentioned, there is no minimum and maximum amount that needs to be raised. It's all based on your capabilities and how much you are able to raise up until race day, or up until the 6th of May. Excuse me, if you want to start on CBEDGE, or if you want to use fundraising as to improve your seeding. And then number 2, must I run in the charity outfit, or can I run in a club colors? That will also be entirely up to you. It is advisable that you run in your club colors, but some fundraisers prefer to run on their charity outfits. So you can wear your charity regalia as long as it is in line, the branding is in line with the ASA rules when it comes to what runners need to wear on race day. And then how do you collect the funds? The race on the Race for Charity platform, you will see on the right hand side that there is, next to your profile there will be a button that says donate. So anyone can just go to your profile and click on donate. Once they click on donate, they will have an option to write a message for you and then select amounts that they want to put on your fundraising profile, campaign rather. And then they will once they save that, they will be redirected to the payment. There are two payment options: a card payment and instant EFT. So it's pretty much easy. You can share the link, your fundraising link, on your Facebook or X or email, or copy the link and share it on your on WhatsApp with your friends or people that you think will be able to assist you with your fundraising. The last option to assist our charities is simply buying a raffle ticket. Unfortunately, this is only this is the option that is only available for South Africans. You can buy a ticket for 50 Rand, and on race day you stand a chance to win a brand new Corolla Cross, a Toyota Cross XI on race day. The draw is at 4:45 in the afternoon. If you are still running, it's not a problem. If we have selected your ticket on race day, then we will contact you after the race and make arrangements for the car to be delivered on your nearest Toyota dealership, no matter where you live, as long as you are within South African borders. Tickets are available on Comrades website under Charities tab, or they will be available and are available from our charities that I have mentioned earlier. Our charities some have branches all over the country. You can get your raffle tickets from them. The ticket is simply 50 Rand. Some few important updates or important dates that you need to be aware of. We are currently in the process of in the substitution period. So from the 15th of March up until up until Friday, the 29th, we have reserved that time for people who have successfully entered for Comrades 2024 to withdraw their entries if they think they will no longer be able to run. So once we have closed this option after the 29th, you will not be able to withdraw your entry, unfortunately. And then people who still would like to enter have from the 1st of April up until 15 April, or when we run out of entries that will be available based on how many people withdrew their entries. So there is no exchange of entries between runners. If someone says they have an entry, they want to sell that entry to you, that is not allowed, and they will be scamming you. Just be aware of that. Everyone who needs to withdraw their entry just needs to go to EasyReg and withdraw their entry, and everyone who wants to enter needs to go to Comrades website from the 1st and put in their entry there. The entry fee is the same. It is 1,200. And then the qualifying period is September 1, 2023 up until the 6th of May. Make sure that you update your qualifying details, your new license, 24 license, and all the details that you need to update before the 6th of May, so that you can guarantee your spot on the start line on the 9th of June. We have upcoming we are now on novice seminars. Our next novice seminar will be in Cape Town at Durbanville Athletic Club. I think that will be on the 16th of April. So runners from Cape Town, we hope to see you there. And then go to our expo. We have expo stands available. For more information, if you would like to exhibit, or you know a company that would like to exhibit, you can go to Comrades website and go under our events tab. If you click on Comrades Expo, you will see all the details, the packages of the expos that are available, and the contact details. And then we will open our expo on the 6th of June at 10 a.m. and close at 7 in the evening. And then on Friday, we will open at 9 and close at 7 in the evening. And then on the last day, we will open at 9 and close a bit earlier at 4. So make sure that you get your house in order. Get to Durban or Pietermaritzburg on time to collect your race pack, and also enjoy our expo, which is, by the way, the biggest running related expo in Africa. So we hope to see you there. Thank you so much for me. That's it from me. You can follow us for more of these updates on our Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and as well as on LinkedIn. And we are available on YouTube as well. Thank you so much.
I'm muted. Don't know why I muted myself. Apologies about that. Thank you very much, Sifiso. Much appreciated. Sifiso will be back in just a moment. If you have got any questions about Comrades qualifying or substitutions, please do pop them in the chat. Sifiso will be around to answer those a little bit later on as well. Before I introduce our next speaker, I do just want to ask each and every one of you, I know you're all in WhatsApp groups, everybody in running clubs talking to each other about Comrades. I've just popped a link into the chat for this webinar. If you wouldn't mind just copying and pasting that link into the WhatsApp groups that you're in, and get your running mates onto this webinar. We obviously do these things free. We want to try and reach as many runners as we can. So please do share this video, get people onto here so that we can help as many people get their Comrades medals as we can in 2024. So a huge welcome to our next speaker onto the stage, Nikki de Villiers. Nikki is one of the best sports nutritionists around. I tell you what, she has done amazing things in my training, and I know she's helped a lot of other runners as well, not just around Comrades. She's worked with some of the biggest professional teams in South African sport. She's worked with PSL teams, professional rugby teams. She's been consulting to the Comrades Marathon Association for many, many years, and she's also worked with athletes all the way from amateur all the way through to Olympic level as well. Absolutely great to have you on the webinar with us this evening, Nikki. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to hand it over to you, and I know you've got some gold to share with our audience this evening. Over to you.
Thank you, Brad. That was quite generous. Yeah, we're going to talk nutrition, and I'm going to jump right into it. Just a few things in terms of basics. I'm going to really concentrate a lot on fueling your run. So what to eat before, during, and after running. Just as an introduction in terms of the basics, you should make sure of the following at this stage. So first of all, meet your energy needs. So make sure you eat enough. Remember, the harder we run or the longer we run, it's going to cost more energy, and energy is coming from food. The second thing is try and build some consistency in what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, especially in terms of the timing. The timing I'm going to go through with you in terms of how to time your intake before, during, and then after your training. Then we look at the quality of stuff. So trying to get as close to nature as possible, all right? So trying to decrease the amount of processed stuff that you're eating, keep it close to nature, whole grains, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, those kind of things. And then the other thing that you need to put onto your attend to list is the hydration, and make sure that we drink enough. I think it was easy up till now because of the heat, but make sure that hydration needs are fully met. So I'm going to take you quickly through, in terms of fueling your run. I want to just stand a little bit on this so that this, whatever I follow up on, does make sense to you in terms of what we need to do before, during, and after. And this is the question, or answering the question, what is fueling our run? So if you look at where we get energy from, it's basically from nutrients. So it's carbohydrate, protein, fat, and alcohol, and it's any one of those four that can fuel the run. Obviously, some with dire consequences, but it will still fuel. But if you look at the dominance of your fueling, it is it should be, if we do any kind of exercise, we usually combine a carbohydrate and fat mix in our runs, and the one that is dominant is dependent on your intensity of the run. So if you look at carbohydrate, you will see there is a visual on the slide where we then distinguish between different intensities of what we're doing with. So anything from a slow jog or walk up until to a very fast run. You will see that carbohydrate will increase, or the use of carbohydrate sources will increase as the intensity increases. The carbohydrate is stored in the body as glycogen, but unfortunately, these stores are not very big. So we don't have huge tanks for it. It's usually quite enough for a 10K, maybe even a 21K, but it will fuel for about 90 minutes, and then that tank will be empty. And from there, then we approach something like a Comrades run with the intake of carbohydrate during the run. Fat then is our fuel for more lower intensity stuff. So usually I refer to fat as being the diesel tank and the carbohydrate as the jet fuel. So by the time I think that you run Comrades, we have developed this diesel tank quite a lot. So it can really, really take you very, very far. The other advantage is we've usually got plenty of fat storage. So therefore, fat will really play a dominant role in your Comrades. It is then going to be predominantly fat with a little bit of carbs for the uphills, and also depending on the intensity that you're running with. And then we will always use a little bit of protein, especially because it's endurance and ultra endurance. You always have a bit of protein in the mix. We try and limit the amount of protein that is used for a fuel source by fueling with the other sources, because we don't want to break down protein in the body to fuel, because that means muscle mass is going to be decreasing. We do know that as you enter the extreme long runs, the muscle mass do decrease, but we really want to see if we can maintain as much as possible. So from this, then I want to move into the pre-race, the during, and the after. Okay, so pre-race meal. Guys, when we talk pre-race, I want you to think pre-training. So pre-race meal is something that you now are training for by doing it before your trainings, and see what works for you and what doesn't. So the idea then for pre-training is to have dominant carbohydrate containing food, but you can always add a little bit of fat and protein. But the sport that you're doing is usually starting very early in the morning, so it's hard to wake up very early. So if we eat a carbohydrate predominant meal, that will usually clear stomach within an hour after you've eaten it. So carbohydrate predominant, let's just get to food. It will be something like a slice of toast. It can be jungle oats. It can be a cereal that you're eating. It can be fruit that you're eating. So if it's just carbohydrate, an hour, and it's out of the stomach even before the hour. So, that would be, if you only have half an hour before you run, or only have 40 minutes before you run, it will be a carbohydrate predominant meal. If you're going to add protein to the meal, so I add yogurt to the fruit, for instance, or I add an egg to the toast, or peanut butter to a toast, or something like that, that will usually take about 2 hours, especially on a nervous stomach. And then if you're going to add excessive fat like bacon or butter or fried eggs, those kind of things will take much longer to clear the stomach, that you need to give about 3 hours. All right. So what you want to achieve is carb predominant. You can add a bit of protein, limit your fat intake, make sure the food is familiar to you and it's practical so that you can duplicate it. So on race day, you can duplicate what you do on training days. And the other thing that it needs to include is a fluid. So we want to obviously go into training sets fully hydrated, because dehydration has got a huge impact on performance. So depending then on the time that you have, so if you have a normal, training run, you probably have 30 minutes. If you have a race, maybe there's an hour, maybe there's 2 hours, depending on where you're going to race. On Comrades Day, you'll probably have 3 hours, 4 hours beforehand available where you can then start eating. If you look at the red bars in the slide, you will see then that the longer we eat, the more hours prior to the race that you eat or prior to your training, the bigger the meal can be. But we try then to achieve, if you eat an hour before, a gram of carbohydrate per kilogram body weight. I don't want to talk a lot about gram per kilogram. I think most of you just remember it's carb predominant, and I put some examples there like fruit or cereal bars or cereal or porridges. The table that's on this visual that you have in front of you, this is indicative of somebody weighing 65 grams per kilogram, okay? The pre-event meal, the 2 to 3 hours, that is then where we need to get 2 to 3 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram of body weight. So if you look at a 65 kg person, we're going to look at about a 3 gram on a 190 gram of carbohydrate. So this is 3 hours prior to. It would look something like 2 cups of oats, 2 cups of milk, 4 teaspoons of honey, and 2 bananas. You will see this is a huge meal, and a lot of people, when I tell them this, they already, convinced there's no way in hell that I'm going to do this. And that's okay. If you look at the hour before, to get to 65 grams of carbohydrate for a 65 kg person, it's going to be a banana, cereal bar, and 200 mils of fruit juice. So if you are then only training, you're going to reach for that 1 hour before type of intake. If you're going to race, you're going to make it a little bit more. So where you are now, it should be that you need to eat a carbohydrate prior to your run. So that's a starch or fruit. You start small amounts and you increase slowly. So if you eat nothing at the moment, eating half a banana tomorrow will make a difference. Slowly but surely up the banana as you go along. If you can't eat something, try a little bit of juice. Just a half a cup of juice, for instance, can work. A cereal bar can work. And then there's people that can eat a whole bowl of oats and go and run. But really try to fuel at least, I mean, if I can get every run, that would be good, because it does help with the recovery as well. It's not only because some people will say, well, it's not a hard run, I'm not going to fuel. But it does help with the recovery after the run that we don't go that deep into our storage. All right. So start now little bits, work up slowly with the pre-race meal as such. If we then look into the during your run, and this is something that you need to do now because you need to train your gut to get used to fueling during. So you need to try and fuel with stuff that you're going to have available on the Comrades Day, and that you will be able to get in for a very long period of time. So it does help to combine things. In the during run, the gender and the weight doesn't really make a difference. So we don't advise gram per kilogram. We do advise gram per hour. And your goal here will depend on what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to, compete in this run, you will work up to about 60 to 90 grams an hour. If you just want to complete, you will probably do a 30 to 60 grams per hour. I'm going to give you some practical ideas just now. Remember, this goal is dependent on your intensity. So you're going to feel for what you're going to do. So if you are busy in your training with time trials, you're busy with speed work, hill repeats, those kind of things, you will obviously have to try and really have an increase of carbohydrate intake during those activities, because that will then enhance performance. Where if you do slower recovery runs, you can go on a decreased intake. The trick here is to make yourself used to eating small amount with regular intervals, that your gut can get used to whatever is going to happen on race day. So you can get these carbohydrates through various sources. So I just put an example here for if you have a sports drink. If you're going to only take sports drink to get to your carb needs, you will have to take about 400 to 500 mils to get to a 30 grams of carb per hour. Now, this sounds, that it's totally possible, but if you're going to have to drink it every hour, there is a possibility that you're going to drink too much liquid. So therefore, rather make, combined sources that you rather make use of, say, a banana with or gels or chews or jelly beans or energy bars. So if you're going to do bananas, again, it will be 1.5 banana per hour. Again, if you run for an hour, that's not a problem. If you're going to run for 10 hours, having 15 bananas, that's going to be a difficult thing to carry around. The gels usually is quite nice, so 1 to 1.5 gels per hour. The indication is usually 1 every 40 minutes. That will bring you there. Again, the gel is nice. You can carry it easily, but it's extremely sweet. So to drink a gel, again, over 21K or 42K maybe is quite doable. If you have to take it longer, it can be problematic if you're not trained it. You can use chews. So the chews is those jelly sweets. So it's about 80 to 100 grams of the sweets. Jelly beans, about 15 of the jelly beans that you have to eat per hour. And a normal cereal or energy bar is usually about 1 to 1.5 bars. But you can definitely combine it. You will see that the example table that I have in there, if you're only going to do small drinks, it's about 750 mils of drink for 50-gram carb per hour. And as I said, that can lead to a little bit of an overhydration. But otherwise, you can combine a banana and a gel and then just drink water when you drink fluid. Or you can have a small packet of jelly beans and then only drink the water with that. So work out a strategy that's going to get you there. Start early, be consistent, and be flexible with what you're taking. With that, I mean, try stuff. If you're going to do races over weekends, try stuff from the tables and see how it does react to your body. Yeah, train the gut, guys. The other thing that's important during your runs is the fluid intake. So the fluid intake is basically measured in two ways. So you can either see or look at the color of the urine. So if it's a very light color, straw color, you're good to run, that's okay. If you're struggling with dehydration or you're not 100% sure, you can calculate the sweat rate. So you see how much you lose in your run and see if you're replenishing that. So we try not to get to the weight loss of more than 3% during your run. So if you weigh yourself before and afterwards, you can see how much you've lost, and that shouldn't be more than 3%. But on the other hand, also you shouldn't gain weight whilst running, because that means you're overhydrating, and that's got also dire consequences. So there you will see the 2 to 3% weight loss is where we will try and stay in, because if you're going to go to a 4% or 5% loss, that is where you're going to run into trouble in terms of the physiology of the body. In terms of should I have electrolytes or not, the electrolytes is a little bit overhyped. I would say if you're a heavy sweater and you work out a sweat rate of, say, 600 or 800 mils per hour, that will help if you take a little bit of electrolytes in the drinks. It doesn't have to be, if you drink a sports drink, there's already electrolytes in it. And remember, a lot of the stuff that you eat also is containing salt. So it is not a necessity to, that electrolyte intake should be your first priority. The first priority should be the fluid intake and fueling, and not your electrolytes as such. Then we need to practice it as far as possible so that we can, that we know and we're comfortable with what we're doing. Try to practice it at race pace that you're going to do racing with, because that's more what's going to happen. And we're obviously practicing for something much bigger than the weekend's fun run in the sun. Avoid anything that's new on race day, and avoid expo temptation. With other words, don't try new stuff that you get at the expo. A lot of the stuff is good, but if you haven't trained with it, don't do it on race day as such. And the refuel after the run, the main thing here is, on Comrades Day, I really wish for you to be able to eat quite quickly, because then you will feel better sooner. But this after the run or the refueling is much more towards what you're doing now, and this is in terms of recovery. So a lot of us are not only running, right? We're working, there's sleep stuff, there's a lot of stuff going on, and therefore the recovery can be hampered if you're not going to really pay attention to this and really emphasize it and make it a consistent habit. So the refueling is 3 things. The most important is try to get to a carbohydrate source as quickly as possible after you finish your run. This can be a banana, it can be a glass of fruit juice, it can be cereal, so whatever is suitable for you. Then look at hydration, that you start drinking, excuse me, also quite early afterwards, and you carry on drinking until you've got a full bladder and you see the urine color is nice and pale. And then the last one that we have to look at is protein intake. This one you can delay a bit, but you need to try within the next 2 hours or so to get to something that containing protein. So if you eat cereal, the protein would be milk. If you eat fruit, you can have a yogurt. If you have a protein shake, make sure the recovery shake is better, or the recovery shake that's better is that have a combination of carbohydrate and protein. So if you look at the label, you will see the carbohydrate content being higher than the protein content. That would be a better recovery shake as such. If you have one that only has protein in it, just add carbs. So mix it with milk, because milk has got a carbohydrate in it. Add a banana, and that then should get you there. Again, I gave you a table. It's still our 65 kg athlete. So a good recovery for them afterwards would be like a Steri Stumpy or flavored milk with a packet of raisins and nuts. So that's something easy that you can have in the car on your way until you then get to after shower, get to work, and then you can have your first meal, which will be dictated by hunger, because you will then get hungry. So please, this, guys, is extremely important. So make it consistent in terms of what you're doing. It doesn't have to be perfect, but start the recovery. You can follow up with other meals then throughout the day. All right, I think that is just a few examples then. As I said, you know, flavored milk, cereal with milk. It can be spaghetti bolognese if you do afternoon trainings. It can be a hamburger, but keep it, you know, fresh stuff as far as possible. And just there's my email. So if there's any questions or queries, you can email me. I'm also on the Coach Berry Forum, so you can also reach me through there. Thanks so much, Brad. Thank you.
Nikki, thank you so much. Yeah, as I said, golden nuggets right throughout that presentation. So if you do have any questions for Nikki, a few have come through, please do pop them into. Nikki, before you go, I do have a question for you. Don't disappear just yet. We've got a few questions that have come through already. Before we get Lindsay on, I'm going to pop this one on for you. Nikki, you were talking about eating before race day. And this one from Schindler's on Tour saying, since Comrades starts at 5:30, does that mean you have to eat your pre-race meal at 2:30 or 3:30?
Yeah, so we want to eat in that 3 hours. So I think on Comrades race day, you will be awake then. So it's a good, you know, times expenditures to eat. So if you, especially if you take something on the transport, so depending on where you're staying, but it will make sense to start eating as soon as you awake and, you know, you're ready to eat, and rather start with small amounts regular throughout that whole morning, rather than what we sit and eat this whole big breakfast if you're not used to it. But yeah, you're going to be awake, so you can just as well eat. If you're only going to roll over and go to the start, then you eat in the hour before. That's good. But I think the sooner we can, because remember there's nerves, so the stomach is then much more susceptible for discomfort.
Yeah, and everybody who's staying in Durban or who's staying in Maritzburg and have to get to Durban are saying, what do you mean 2:30? We're going to be up that time anyway. But as you said, Nikki, the night before, not much sleep happens anyway. So, yeah, breakfast at that time in the morning is pretty much normal for Comrades runners, I think. So, yeah, Nikki, thank you very much for that. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more questions. We really do appreciate it. Yeah, I'm going to get our next speaker on the stage if we can. And it's a great pleasure to welcome the Comrades Marathon coach, Lindsay Parry, with us today as well. Before I introduce Lindsay, I'm going to ask everyone who's on this call, I want to know your level of nervousness out of 10. Let me know in the chat. So if you are super confident and you've got this down, everything is going according to plan, you would be a 10. Or if you are a nervous wreck, you're having nightmares, you're not sure how you're going to do this, you would be a 1. So let me know on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you fit there? Let us know in the chat. I'd love to know where you fit in. So for those of you who don't know who the Comrades Marathon coach is, Lindsay Parry's been the Comrades coach for a number of years, a decade and a bit. He's helped thousands of runners get their Comrades Marathon medals. He's been to 3 Olympic Games, been to Commonwealth Games, has coached winners in Caroline Wasserman and Shanae Bosman. Also got a second last year as well with Adele Brudrake. He's also coached many amateurs to their goals, whether it be silver, sub-6, whether it be Bull Rowans, whatever. So you are in very good hands this evening, and I see a lot of those numbers coming through. There's a lot of people who are 8 and 9s, Lindsay, which is very good. Madeleine says she's a 12 out of 10, which is superb. That's exactly where you want to be, Madeleine. A lot of people nervous. We've got a couple of 3s. Bongiwe is saying Bongiwe is a 4. Neil Williams is saying a 3. So the reason I asked that question is if you listen to Lindsay and you do exactly what he's going to say over the next 20 minutes, it's going to transform you into a 7 to 9 tonight. So make sure you listen very, very carefully, take lots of notes, and I'm sure you are going to get lots of help over the next few minutes. Lindsay Parry, it is over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, look, we don't want to be too confident about Comrades. You want some healthy nerves. We are finally heading into autumn, certainly here in Joburg. I'm just starting to feel a nice chill in the air. It's definitely much darker. But yeah, we need a little bit of fear to drive us and get us out of bed in the mornings, especially when it gets cold, cold, cold in May. But yeah, I guess that's when the training is almost over. So yeah, what we're going to unpack now is where we should be right now, and mostly what we need to do for the next 4 weeks. I guess that's the most important. Yeah, and then just really about the hard weeks and hanging in there. Why I don't want anyone racing, listen to me, racing anymore. And then, of course, we've had the nutrition, and I'm going to show you where that fits nicely into my talk in a little bit. So, look, this is what we are preparing for. There is nothing easy about the Comrades. I was in Randburg doing the novice roadshow last week, and I popped this up and said that this is probably the hardest 36Ks of any race you'll ever do anywhere in the world, and that's the first 36Ks. And Bruce Fordyce chuckled and said, look, I don't know about you, but that's probably the hardest marathon that you're ever going to run to 42K. So, look, it is difficult. It is far. But like Brad said, if you stick to the basics, if you do what you need to do, then you are going to finish. And yeah, I'm going to keep chucking these up in the webinars, but we'll really go into that in detail on both the novice webinar and then, of course, the final webinar that we do that just takes us into the last few days and race day at Comrades. So the next 4 weeks, we are going to be moving straight into peak training. So where we are now is that we have started the Comrades training. I've been holding you back webinar after webinar, telling you that the real training starts on the 18th of March. We're now the 27th of March, so we're just about heading into our second week or getting to the end of our second week of that peak training period, or the focus training period for Comrades. So we're really ramping up to hit our peak mileage in the next 4 weeks. So we are focusing on mileage, we are focusing on kilometers, but we can get really obsessed about that. And particularly the runners in your club that have done 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, or like maybe 44 or more. Comrades, they forget what it's like to be a novice sometimes, and they can talk about how you have to run 100 Ks a week to finish Comrades, and that's absolutely not true. But there the numbers are right in front of you. So where we are heading towards, if you're a finisher, we're pushing to get you to a really consistent 50 to 65 kilometers a week, a bronze 65 to 70 kilometers a week. Your Robert Machali is 70 to 75 Ks a week. Bill Rowan is 90 to 100 Ks a week. And I'm sorry I didn't change this particular slide because the Isabel Roche Kelly and the silver no longer belong together. In case you haven't heard, the Isabel Roche Kelly now means that you have to run under 7 hours. And in my presentation, I don't talk to those people because there's so few of them. And I always joke that silver medal runners don't have any friends and they hate their family. Well, if you're running for a sub 7 hour Comrades, that becomes even more true. So yeah, your silver medalists are going 110 to 130 plus kilometers a week when you hit that peak training. So yeah, that gives you a rough idea of where you are. And I think one of the things that's quite important to note about this is that these numbers are kind of your week to week. Okay, we're going to touch on long runs, how many there should be, how far apart they should be. But in your long run weeks, the weeks where you're going to do 40 to 55 Ks maximum as a long training run, those are going to be bigger than these weeks. So this is your kind of stock standard week, 50 to 65 Ks a week, a little bit less on your recovery week, a little bit more once a month when you do your really big long runs. And that goes all the way through. So your finishes, you probably are going to do a 80 to 100K week, maybe two, 3 times maximum through your training block. Your Robert Charlies are probably going to hit 110, 115, maybe once or twice through the whole training block. So that is an important thing just to bear in mind, that this 65 to 70, that's your week in, week out. And then you're going to top that up with a long run here and there. Okay. It is about logging the kilometers, but you mustn't lose the plot. You really have to focus on recovery. That is important. And I'm going to do a little chat about recovery right at the end of my little bit. But we really want to focus on recovery and make sure that we are recovering from sessions so that we don't get injured. Okay. I must have had a finger slip there, but 68% of runners who don't finish because they start Comrades with an injury. Now, if you've been listening to my talks, if you've been to the road shows, if you've been to the novice shows, and if you've been to previous webinars, I've literally said that stat on every single webinar because it's so important to me. And it's so important that you understand that your biggest stumbling block to finishing Comrades and getting a medal is if you line up injured. So please, if there's pain, stop running, get it treated, get rid of it, and then you proceed with your training. Okay. And then, very importantly, I'm going to unpack that also just a little bit more, I think, on the next slide. But we want to train Comrades pace on some of our longer runs. That's very important. And I'll explain why when I unpack that. I'm going to come back to recovery. I want to leave that one to last. Okay. So, no more racing. Why don't we want to race between now and Comrades? Okay, I realize that there might be some people on the call that haven't qualified yet. And what that means is that when you do qualify, you should really try and do that with the minimum amount of effort that you can afford. So what does that mean? If you are someone who's a marginal qualifier, you've got to give it your best shot. You've got to qualify. And then that means you have to recover properly from those sessions. And when I talk about what else you can do for recovery on that other slide, I'll unpack a little bit more for you, okay? But you want to try and do that with as little effort as possible. If you've qualified, you don't want to chase improved seeding because racing now, between now and Comrades, particularly marathons and longer, that's your biggest risk for picking up an injury. Okay? So you are just exposing yourself to a potential injury that's your biggest stumbling block to potentially finishing the Comrades. And why are you trying so hard to improve your seeding? Because the maximum you're going to save is 2 minutes. For 99% of you out there, when you run to qualify for Comrades, whatever your time is that you run, if you had a bad day, if you're a little bit sick, if you picked something up along the way, the reality is that you probably only 1, maximum 2 seeding pens back. The biggest saving you can make is when you move from H to G. That's about 2 minutes. And then as we move further along, those gains are less and less and less. If you move from B seeding to A seeding, you save yourself 11 seconds on race day. If you move from C to B, you save yourself about 40 seconds. So you can see that the effort that you've got to put in to move one seeding batch up is disproportionate to your time saving on race day. And it compromises your training. So even if you don't get injured from it, you can't train properly after a marathon. You really have to let your body recover. And so that week to 2 weeks that you can't train properly, that you're just letting your legs settle, letting them come back to you, those 2 weeks are going to cost you more than 2 minutes. They're probably going to cost you more than 10 minutes on race day because of your loss in fitness as you are training, or the loss of potential fitness that you could have gained by training properly. So now that you've qualified, we don't do any more racing between now and Comrades. And the only exception is for people who need to qualify and those that are very much on the edge. Okay. Now, long runs. We are in peak training, as I've said. A lot of people have already done an Omni Dam, have done a marathon recently in training. So in reality, most people have already done at least one of those long runs. Now, I'm a big believer in 2 to 3 runs of between 40 and 55 kilometers. My preference is for 2 runs of 40 to 45 Ks and a run of 55. But of course, I know we've got really good races like the Oceans that are 56 Ks, and many of the long training runs or the final Comrades long runs are 55 Ks. But what you're looking at is a combination of 3 runs between 40, 45 Ks, preferably all spaced 4 weeks apart. But a minimum of 3 weeks between all of those is really highly advised. And so now you can start to see in your head that if you're going to space them out every 4 weeks, that means we're going to be doing 1 run a month. And so when we look at the numbers that I flashed up just now, if we just go back to them, you'll see that 3 times you're going to be at 90 to 100 Ks a week on the finishers plan, for example. That's going to be every 3 to 4 weeks. Okay, that's important to note. Now you know how often you should do those runs. Sorry, the last thing that I want to unpack around that is that if you are doing 2 Oceans, it's a great race. I encourage people to do it, but it does need some modification of how we do this, because my preferred way is to do like a 42, 250, and then finally a 45, 250 as your final long run. Of course, now if we slap 2 Oceans in the middle there, then that last long run for me, importantly, shouldn't be another 50 plus for anyone who is slower than 7.5 hours for Comrades. So the anyone 7:45, 8 hours, 8.5 hours, 9 hours, all the way up. If you're doing 2 Oceans, then 3 to 4 weeks later, you're going to do another 40 to 45 kilometers maximum. Very interestingly, that my 2 best Comrades, I've got a 7:10 down and a 7:10:50 something up. Both of those were in years where 2 Oceans fell roughly in the timing that it is now, and my last long run was 4 weeks before Comrades, and it was only 45 kilometers. So that just goes to show you that even on the faster end of the spectrum, if you do 2 Oceans, we don't need another really big run closer. Okay, so we've spoken about how long, we've spoken about how often. Now what's really important is that these are dress rehearsals, they aren't races. You don't want to be running these to see how strong you are, how fit you are. What you want to do is you actually want to teach yourself how you are going to run at Comrades. Comrades pace is one of the hardest things to master, and it's part of the reason why most people run their fastest Comrades between Comrades number 4 and 7. Because only once they've really got the experience of learning to go slow enough in the first half so that they can actually run and they don't have to walk most of the second half, that you have successful Comrades. But you can teach yourself that before Comrades. If you run these 3 long runs that I'm talking about at or around Comrades race pace, implement your Comrades walk-run strategy and practice your nutrition, which is exactly why we invited Nikki on tonight's talk, to give you the tools. Most of us have still got 2 long runs left, so we've got 2 long runs to implement the strategies that Nikki has spoken to you about this evening, so that on race day, you know exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. One of the big issues around Comrades race day is nausea. And part of that comes from the fact that we are going at a much lower intensity at Comrades than on any of the other runs that we've been practicing our nutrition on. So again, just so important, we want you at Comrades race pace on those long runs, which is much slower than your average everyday easy runs. If you're training for a bull run, you're probably training somewhere between 5:30 and 5:45 per kilometer. Race pace is 6 minutes per K for a bull run. So get used to running that slowly. That's really, really important for the long runs. Right, so now let me jump all the way back to recovery. I've said it's important, and there are a lot of things that we can do. And I did cover this in the first webinar, but I want to reiterate it because now we are in peak training, and everything that we do to help ourselves for the next 6 to 8 weeks can make a huge difference to avoiding getting injured, avoiding getting sick. Okay, so very important, and the first step and first line of defense against injury and illness is making sure that we have rest days built into our training plans. That's a weekly minimum of 1 weekly rest day. We are typically only going to run 4 days a week. Most of the plans, if you follow them from me, they are going to be 4-day-a-week plans, and that gives you some flexibility. It allows you to do some strength training. We had a great chat about strength training in the previous webinar, but that allows you to get in some recovery, and importantly, it then still leaves time for you to have this one rest day. Okay, the second thing, and then last, to finish off with rest, is that after we do these very long, the marathons and the ultras, is to give yourself 2 to 3 days of rest and very easy training so that you recover from those fully, and then sleep. I can't overemphasize enough how important sleep is in this recovery cycle. It's not about getting the perfect amount of sleep, but it's really about creating conditions that allow you to sleep better. Okay, there are 3 simple steps that I'm going to give you tonight that will really help you to sleep better and to recover better. The first is, where possible, get into bed earlier. Okay, really strive to be asleep by 10 o'clock or earlier than 10 o'clock. If you do that, then you're going to get a much higher release of testosterone and growth hormone while you're sleeping, and that really helps with your recovery. The second thing is to really get off screens and devices. Okay? Smart TVs, cell phones, laptops, Kindles, anything that emits light. Get off of those, read a paperback, talk to your spouse or partner. That's a great way to just settle the brainwave so that you sleep better. And research shows that you go into a deeper sleep if you get off screens for about 30 minutes before you go to sleep. And then the last thing is to have a really quiet, dark, cool bedroom. If you can tick those 3 things off, don't have a TV with a red shining light in your room. Don't leave your cell phone next to your bed with a blinking light every time someone sends you a message, and you don't want a really bright clock that shines in your face while you're sleeping. Okay, those are really critical. And then your other thing is nutrition. It's just so important and plays such a strong role. Effectively, the base of my recovery triangle is nutrition and it's sleep. And that is another reason why Nikki was on tonight's show, so she can talk you through how to recover well from workouts and what to do during workouts so that you can recover better afterwards. After you've got the basics right, then there are a couple of things you can do to help with recovery. Massage is probably the top of my list. Unfortunately, not everyone can get access to that, but if you can have a massage every 2 to 4 weeks, massive difference to recovery. You can use things like compression tights, compression socks. If you're fortunate enough to be able to afford something like compression boots, those are just fantastic for recovery. Foam rollers, massage or percussion guns, if you can't get to actual massage, those are the kind of things that make a huge difference. And then I said I will talk a little bit about if you still need to qualify and you're a marginal qualifier, then after an event like that, then you can do things like having ice baths, but very importantly, make sure that you give yourself 3 to 4 days of no running, so that you recover from that marathon. Then you slowly build up over 10 days and then get back into your training. Right, that is it from me in the formal section. Yeah, I'm sure we'll have a few questions and then we'll have the star of the show.
Yeah, absolutely, Lindsay. So many great questions coming through. Please do pop them in the chat if you do have any questions for the coach. Before we get on to the questions, Lindsay, I don't know if you know this, but I was thinking about it earlier today, that you and I started doing these webinars back in 2013. And obviously we missed the year with COVID, which means there could be people on this call tonight that have basically followed our webinar series all the way through to Green Number. How cool is that?
Yeah, that's awesome. Let us know if you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know in the chat. And Lindsay, my mind has been blown this evening because it's obviously an up run, and there's got to be some science in this. If you run backwards, it's basically a down run, right?
You wish.
Maybe not. Maybe not. All right, let's get some serious questions. This one from Fricky. Fricky saying, is it advisable to run Oceans and the club run of 60 kilometers at the end of April?
No, absolutely not. That is one beautiful animal. That's Fricky to Blanche's YouTube icon there. But it's the opposite of advisable. I'm trying to think of the right word to use here without being offensive. But no, Fricky, as I said, 56 Ks, then 45 Ks is then your maximum after doing 2 Oceans.
Cool, Fricky, I hope that helps. Lindsay, this is also a great question about shoes from Ali. Ali saying, if you've done 1,000 kilometers recommended in training program in the shoes that is in, should I have a fresh pair of the shoes that have done less kilometers for race day?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to have between 100 and 200 kilometers. That's like the ideal. But anything up to about 450 means that shoe will still be in really good nick for race day. Look, shoes will last 800 to 1,000 Ks, but Comrades is a long way. And the sole does definitely get really squished up during Comrades. So you want a fresh shoe that's run in. You don't want a brand new shoe. So if you are very unlucky and your shoes get stolen, then you don't have a choice. But then you walk in them as much as you can from the time that those shoes disappear to the time that you need to run in them. But yeah, I'd aim for between 100 and 200 kilometers in your new pair of shoes, and then those are the ones that you use for race day.
Cool. Great question. This one from, where has it disappeared to now? From Zukile. Zukile is saying, how do I get access to the previous session about strength training? Zukile, that is a great question. This is webinar number 3 of the general. We've done a women's webinar as well. So if this is the first webinar that you're on, or if you missed any of the others, the YouTube channel that you're watching this webinar on right now, I'm going to ask everybody to do this because there's something else that I'm going to tell you about in a second. But hit that subscribe button right now, okay? If you go back after this webinar and look at all the videos that are on that YouTube channel, you can find all the replays to these webinars. And then also Lindsay and I put out a weekly podcast called Up. And it is basically exactly where you need to be every single week. There's been a couple of amazing episodes that come out every single Monday morning at 9 a.m. So you can get it on YouTube. You can also get it on any podcast player that you listen. So if you're on Apple Podcasts or if you listen on Spotify, all you need to do is just search for Coach Parry and Comrades Marathon. You will find that podcast there as well. You can also watch it on the YouTube channel. So Zwakele, I hope that is helpful to you. And then, Lindsay, I'm going to squeeze in 2 more questions before we get the star of the show in. And this one is from Edwin. Edwin saying, if you still need to qualify, would you suggest any type of taper prior to the planned qualifying race? Wondering how to manage the weekly mileage versus being somewhat recovered enough to qualify.
Yeah, so Edwin, I'm going to answer this for the 2 scenarios so that everyone gets the benefit of the answer. So if you are a comfortable qualifier, so in other words, anybody who's capable of running 4.5 hours or faster for a marathon is a comfortable qualifier. So if you're capable of running that kind of marathon, then yes, I would still suggest like a 7-day taper. So the weekend before the race, you wouldn't do a long run. You'd run for 45 minutes to an hour, and then do a very easy week going into that marathon so that you are fresh, but then you'd run between 15 and 20 minutes slower than what you're capable of. So if you're a 4-hour marathoner, you'd target a 4:20. If you're a 4.5-hour marathoner, you target a 4:45. And that would then allow you to actually then, after the race, rest for 2-3 days and then carry on with your training. If you're a marginal qualifier, then absolutely. Then you want to take a full 2-week taper, really get fresh, give yourself the absolute best chance of qualifying, go there, grab your sub 450, and then let yourself recover for a full week after that so that you really do recover properly and then start training again.
Cool stuff. Lindsay, last one before we get our special guest on. This is from Anthony. Anthony's talking about strength training. He says, if I'm not consistently getting 30 to 40 minute strength training session in once or twice a week, what's the relative benefit of doing a few minutes of strength exercises throughout the day, each day?
Look, it'll work. I mean, I don't think there's been too much study on doing that, but honestly, that to me is a classic case of that's going to be a whole lot better than not doing anything. So I would probably split the routine up so that you're almost doing like maybe 2 to 3 lower body exercises, then your kind of core stability and a little bit of upper body, then a few more leg, and then a few more, and then so across 4 days you're just getting in your dose, but you're still getting covering all your bases. That'll probably work. And it, again, like I said, that's going to beat not doing strength training every day of the week. But yeah, from a comparative point of view, which is better, I don't think too many people have had a look of the impact of that. I would imagine that pushing yourself hard in strength twice a week probably give you slightly better results. But yeah, I'm not prepared to like swear by that. I think your way would work.
Yeah, it's definitely better than doing no strength training, Lindsay. I think that's
absolutely. Yeah. And, cool. and actually, Brad, ironically, my dad was struggling to get strength training, and he told me he had taken the plan. He said he didn't have enough time to do 2 strength sessions a week, so he was literally splitting them in half and doing 4 a week, but still doing the same amount of volume, and it actually worked quite well for him. So yeah, I think that would work.
Every time you boil a kettle, you need to do a couple of squats. Every time you get up from your desk, you need to do a couple of lunges. Yeah. So, Lindsay, how cool is this? This is from Mariska. I started watching you guys in 2013, going for my green number. How awesome.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So that is like, well done, Brad. You actually made my night there. Cool. Thank you.
That makes me happy. Makes me happy. You know what's going to make my night is our next guest. I am so excited to have Louis Massain on this webinar with us. Louis, it is so great to have you. I was going to say, for the folks who don't know who you are, everybody knows who you are, but I'm just going to let everybody know. Louis run 48 Comrades marathons consecutively. He missed 2022 because of injury, but being patiently waiting in the wings and joining us from his new home on the Garden Routes. Spent many, many years in the Free State. Louis Massain, absolute pleasure to have you with us this evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi. Thanks. It's a huge honor for joining you guys here this evening. As you mentioned,
I'm going to ask you a few questions, if I may. We had in the last webinar, we had Barry Holland on, and you and Barry were going neck and neck to try and see who could outlast the other one. Obviously, you unfortunately picked up a really tough injury that put you out and stopped your streak. But 48 Comrades is incredible, and I'm going to ask you to go back to number 1. We've got a lot of novices on tonight's webinar. Can you remember number 1? Tell me a little bit about it and how did it go?
Well, Comrades number 1, 1973. It all started with a sermon in the Anglican Church in Woodendalsrus, where the Bishop of Bloemfontein actually physically compared the Comrades marathon in his sermon on that evening with a confirmation service. And there I sat in the congregation and I said to myself, Massain, the next Comrades you're going to run, which happened to be, those days it wasn't necessary to belong to a club. No need to qualify. You just entered. Entry fee was R4. And yes, 1973 was my first race ever in my life. And I was right there on the start line. You mentioned about earlier, there was a bit of a mention about the running shoes. Well, my late mom, she actually offered to buy me a pair of shoes. I went to a sports shop in Welkom, bought myself a pair of shoes. The guy selling the shoes to me, he said to me, what am I going to do with this expensive pair of shoes? Because I bought the most expensive pair of shoes that they actually had in the shop. 23 Rand. This guy said, listen, you're going to run Comrades with us. Do you know how far Comrades is? You need 2 pairs of shoes. So I said, gee, well, my mom is not going to buy me 2 pairs of shoes. A week before Comrades, myself and my mom traveled down to Durban, Maritzburg by train. 3-4 days before the start of the race, I went downtown Maritzburg, about 3-4 shops away from the City Hall. Actually, the shop right next to, I don't know if anyone can remember the TV program, The Dinglies. At that stage, it was just right next to the Dinglies TV program where that program was recorded. I went into a shop there and I bought myself another pair of shoes because I needed 2 pairs of shoes. So yes, race day, the night before, I decided I'm going to run with a pair of shoes that I bought in Maritzburg. And, well, that pair of shoes only cost R4.99. So I started off with a R4.99 pair of shoes. I never wore the 23 Rand pair of shoes. But believe me, those days there were no seconds. You had your own seconds. There were no refreshment stations along the route. You had your own seconds. And, well, I ran the full distance after Comrades with my R4.99 pair of shoes. And, well, it was actually removing the shoes. It was one hell of a blood blister from front to the back of my foot sole. It was just one huge blood blister. I was actually walking triple for about 2 weeks after Comrades. Everybody was asking whether I was in a motor car accident. But yes, so now I ran Comrades, and this mate of mine said, well, what's Comrades? So I explained to him. They didn't even know what Comrades was about. It was the race, the most important and the most, it's the most memorable experience in my life that I've experienced, and to be part of the Comrades Marathon for almost 50 years running, yes, that was my first Comrades.
Let me unmute you. I have to ask you, Louis, that's amazing. I see a lot of people in the comments are having a good chuckle about the R4 entry fee and the R4.99 shoes, which is amazing. But I think all of us who have run Comrades at some stage said, I'm never doing that again. Did you say after your first one, you're never doing that again?
Well, actually, to be quite honest, yes, I've said that quite a few times. And I've actually asked myself the question, why are you doing this? And, you know, to run yourself 90 kilometers and run yourself into pain and tell me that is lekker or it's enjoyable. It's absolutely not enjoyable. But, you know, the satisfaction that you actually receive the day after Comrades, yeah? And the moment that your feet touches grass, when you enter the stadium and your feet touches grass, that's a feeling that you cannot explain to nobody else but just yourself. And to run yourself into pain and agony, yes, and the satisfaction that you've received afterwards, it's really, that is, I'll be back next year, and I'm looking forward to next year when it will be my 50th.
Awesome. Lindsay, you got a question for Louis?
It's the unmute show. Yeah, so what most people don't know is that we've got 3 Vrystaaters here. We're well represented by Virginia and Odin Rolls-Royce. So but anyway, yeah, that's an aside. Louis, 48 years of Comrades, it would be 49. I mean, you had to have an operation. That was the only way that could keep you from running between Durban and Maritzburg. How do you I mean, you've spoken about the feeling that you get from Comrades, so that's your motivation to keep going back. But how do you stay motivated to train for 50 years? What gets you up and doing what you need to do day in, day out, week in, week out for 50 years?
In the cold Free State mornings before Comrades, I might add.
Yeah, that's right. To keep me motivated is actually my fellow athletes that are keeping me really motivated for the past 50 years. And yes, it's a huge thank to all those runners out there that really keeps me going. And yes, they are really supporting me. I've got a huge support group out there, and they keep me motivated. Probably I'm a real motivator for them as well, motivating these guys, but they keep me motivated and keep me going.
Louis, I have to ask, I mean, obviously you had the injury that kept you out, but what has been your secret to being so consistent and being able to run? I mean, Comrades is hard on the body. I mean, for anybody who's run multiple Comrades, it does take its toll on your body. What has been your secret to come back year after year after year from a training perspective? What do you think it is?
Well, the knee injury was actually my biggest drawback, meniscus torn that I had. But I was listening to my body. When there was a small niggle of a pain or something, I really rested, as it has mentioned earlier on in the program. Do not start a race with an injury. Rest, and I think that's the most secret for the 50 years of being successful.
Louis, I'm going to ask you a question, and just I'm going to say to anybody who's watching too, if you've got any questions for Louis, please feel free to pop them into the chat and I'll pose them. Louis, what advice would you give? I mean, we've got quite a few novices on the call with us this evening running their first Comrades, and quite a few. I know Lindsay always says that if you've only done the down and you've never done the up, you're still a novice. So what advice would you give to the novices, and particularly to the up run novices? The best way to approach from where we are now, and then particularly race day?
Well, to be quite honest, I prefer the down race. To be quite honest, the up run is far more difficult, because it has mentioned that the first 36 kilometers is uphill. Well, right until you've reached the top of Inchanga, that's actually all the way uphill. You've got a few downhills there, which is probably the 6 or 7 kilometers downhill that you do experience, and a bit of flats that are there. But right to the top of Inchanga, well, keep your arms pumping, and that's really gonna help you up the hills.
And those hills are tough. So tell me about the mental side of second half of the race. How do you keep yourself going when you go, you know what, I'm never doing this again, because that's what we tell ourselves when we're going up in Changa. And how do you keep yourself going to the finish?
Well, running in the morning sets the time to keep you going for the day. And hard training runs that you've done pay off. This is the real payoff. But you must keep yourself focused. Once you've reached the halfway mark, you must really keep yourself focused to reach the finish line. Do not the focus is the main important part, is to stay focused.
Louis, a question from Elliot. Elliot wants to know, do you prepare differently for the up run to the down run? How does your training differ for the two different races?
Well, definitely strength training is definitely need to be part of the of your training. Myself, I'm not that very strong, physically strong, but mentally I am very strong. So yes, you need to prepare yourself very. The mental preparation is very important for your training as well.
Fantastic.
But strength training, yes.
Awesome. Louis, I just want to say thank you very much for joining us this evening. We've loved having you on. Just looking at the comments in the chat, people are so inspired and motivated and in awe of your achievement. I mean, you've run for many years. I mean, you're part of that Comrades fabric. I'm going to ask you this one last question from me, and then we've got a couple of questions for Lindsay and Sifiso that people want to know about training and just some logistics. But as far as the Comrades Marathon goes, it's obviously been a huge part of your life for many years. What is it that makes Comrades so special?
Well, for me to be part of the world's greatest ultra marathon, and I have completed the 6 majors, and I've actually been in touch one evening in Detroit, sitting in a pub having a couple of pints. I actually mentioned to all these Americans, listen guys, you've got the Boston Marathon. And everybody's talking about the Boston Marathon. It is the world's oldest marathon in the world. But you know what? We in South Africa, we've got the Comrades Marathon that is far younger than what the Boston Marathon is, but the history of the Comrades Marathon is far greater than what the Boston Marathon can offer, than what Comrades can offer the athletes. So yes, for me to be part of Comrades, and for all of us, for each and everyone that participates in this race, yes, it's great to be part of the Comrades Marathon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Lee, and I just want to say one thing. I'm sure you know this, but maybe the listeners haven't worked it out yet. But when Louis runs the 100th running of the Comrades, he will have run more than half of the Comrades that have ever been run. So let that sink in for you for a little bit. Yeah, just a fantastic achievement. The longevity is unbelievable. I don't know if Brad touched on your personal best, but I think you have a 6:20 Comrade. So you not only have run many Comrades, but you've also run very fast Comrades. So phenomenal achievement. Yeah, well done. It's been a real privilege to have you on here tonight.
Thank you very much. Yes, it was 6:25. And then in the year when I completed my 10th silver medal, I just said, E for enough. I really wanted to enjoy Comrades.
Louis, that is awesome. Thank you so much. There's so much love for you in the comments. I'm sure you're going to check out the comments afterwards. Everybody just saying you're awesome and they're wishing you luck for number 49 and particularly number 50. So thank you for joining us tonight. We know it is late. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you on the road and especially finishing a few more Comrades. I'm sure you've got a few more under your belt as well, or still to come. So thank you for your time tonight. We really do appreciate having you on, Louis. Thanks.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks.
Cool. What a legend. What a legend. Louis Massain joining us this evening. Lots of great questions coming through still through the chat. If you've got any about the race or training, nutrition, please do ask them. Sifiso, got a couple of questions for you. And let me just find, I had flagged them. Here we go. One from Maud. Maud saying 2 questions. If I run an ultra, but I want to use my 42 as my qualifier, what is the criteria and what time do I submit? And then second question, do I submit net time or do I submit my finishing time?
Basically, if you've run an ultra and you want to use your 42 kilometer, your marathon split, you can use your 42 Comrades marathon split. Just email info@Comrades. They will be able to sort that one out for you, because if you go update on the back end, it will only show the total kilometers of the race. But if our IT team, if you email us, they will be able to assist you.
Fantastic.
So just to clarify one point though, the race must have an official marathon point, so you can't send your marathon GPS. Yeah,
that is correct.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then
Guys, before you ask the next question, Brad, we need to take a photo of Sifiso tonight, because this is cool, calm, and collected. Sifiso he's looking very good and relaxed tonight. I want everyone on the webinar, you must find Sifiso during the expo, and you'll see a different Sifiso.
I would have my cap and my hat around the expo.
I was about to say, I was going to say, you look very different, but I can't quite put my finger on it. But now I know what it is.
In fact, you beat me to it. I had my cap earlier on, and then I put it down, and then you just brought me back onto the screen, and I was like, oh my God, I'm back on without my cap.
Sifiso, this is a question from Ingo. Ingo saying, as I have to withdraw from this year's race due to injury, there's no chance to do this on his Easy Reg account. What can he do? I'm guessing the answer is the same. info@comrades.com is the email address.
Yes, you can just email us at info, or maybe just email me directly, sifiso@comrades.com. I'll definitely assist you.
Yeah, and just for everybody, I mean, that email address, if you've got any queries, like whether it's qualifying times or seeding issues or anything you want to know, that email address is manned. It's info@comrades.com. You can get all your questions answered there. So brilliant. Great questions. Sifiso, I'm going to, if anything else comes through,
Also, Brad, if maybe you send an email and then there's something urgent, you can always pop a message on our social media. We'll be able to assist you, because sometimes on weekends, nobody's manning it, but on social media, we're quite active. We do assist you any time of the day.
Fantastic. All right, cool. Got a question for Lindsay, so I'm just going to drop you there, Sifiso, if that's cool. Lindsay, question from, this is from Geeko. Geeko Sapien, I love it. I'm guessing that's not what his mother calls him. But Geeko Sapien says, regarding the training mileage, what happens if you get injured and treat that for a couple of weeks, fully recover, say in time, mid-April? How does that affect your overall mileage when you come back?
Pico, that is a cool question. And as they say in the classics, we never play catch up. Okay, so once you've had an injury, then you've got to build up from that point, get yourself back up to peak training, and then it becomes about doing the best that you can do from that point. Because if you try and play catch up, you're going to ramp your training up too steeply, and you're going to push yourself into another overuse injury really, really quickly. So we just accept that we're going to lose some training time, miss some training time. We hope that the freshness that we get from that injury is going to compensate a little bit for some of the fitness that you've lost, but then we build back up and we train them consistently and well up to that point in time. Also, if you do get an injury, most injuries allow you to do cross training. So let's say you have shin splints, then you can still cycle because there's no pain with the cycling, and you can still do strength training. And both of those two things are still going to help you prepare for Comrades. Then you'll lose a lot less. And it also takes the pressure off of you trying to chase to try and catch up. But we never try and catch up what we missed.
Cool, great question. Lindsay, here's one from Pule. Pule saying, should we rest or not be doing any race between 4-week intervals? I'm guessing this is around doing marathons and long run, like the marathon or ultras. What sort of gap should you have between those?
Yeah, so you want to have 3 to 4 weeks between marathons and or ultra marathons. So let's say you ran a marathon this past weekend on the 23rd or 24th of March, then that means then that means you won't do another marathon or ultra before the 13th, 14th. So you can do 3 weeks, but I prefer 4 weeks. And then that means that your next one will be on the 4th or 5th of May, which is exactly when you should be doing your Comrades long run. So that will kind of fall into what we call perfect timing. When I was talking about resting, what I mean by that is that you should have a minimum of one, possibly 2 days a week where you don't run and that you are resting. And then when you do these long runs, your marathons, your ultras, it's always advisable to rest for 2 to 3 days. And then you pick up. If you rest for 2, 3 days, you can still end up with a nice 4-day training week or 3-day training week. And then you get back into full training the following week. So not a bad idea to schedule your recovery week straight after your long runs, and then you have your 2 loading weeks, and then you end your 3 loading week cycle with a nice long run, and then you go into your recovery week. That's quite a nice way to build your plan.
Cool, great question. Lindsay, question from Philip DeVet. Philip saying, is there a formal scouting of the first 30 to 40 kilometers? I'm guessing like a route tour. What do you know about the route tours?
Yeah, so there's a couple of options there. The beloved long runs in Durban, they run on the route most weekends. So you can get hold of Dean Wright. He's got a Facebook page, Beloved Long Runs. So you can get hold of him there, find out what weekends they're doing. And then what they call the route tester will take place on the weekend of the 5th. So they normally have both days because some people run on different days, and also a lot of people go down, so they can't actually all run on one day. So on the 5th and 6th of May, I think that's also done by beloved long runs. But again, you can ask on the Facebook page. Dean will point you in the right direction if it's not him. The 5th and 6th of May, everyone gathers and does a route tester, and there's backup and support on the route.
Cool, great question, Philip. Thank you so much for that. Lindsay, this is a great question from Vusi. Vusi saying, flu. What happens if you get flu the week before Comrades? Should you continue and still run?
So, Vusi, if you have like proper full-blown dinkum flu, the fevers, night sweats, the works, and you're sick for 3-4 days, then you probably shouldn't, because even if your symptoms are starting to clear, then you're still going to have a pretty high viral load, and then you are potentially at a big risk to picking up a pericarditis or myocarditis. So then I wouldn't race. But if you are sick in the final week going into Cape Town, then what I would do is 2 to 3 days before the race is go and see a sports physician or a doctor that has experience around sport and exercise. Get yourself checked out and then see if it's safe for you to train. And depending on what the symptoms are, the doctor will also be able to take a much more educated guess on whether you are dealing with a bacterial or with a viral infection. That makes a really big difference about whether you should or shouldn't be doing Comrades.
Yeah, Vusi, and just in my experience, and in 2014, I woke up on Comrades race morning as sick as a dog. I was feverish. I was like body aches, coughing like a really bad cough. And I trained, and I was probably in the best shape of my life, and I decided not to run. And it was, I know I made the right call, and I know that I put a lot of effort into it, and it is a difficult call to make. And this is for anybody. If you are in that situation, the race is going to be there next year. It's not worth risking your life and something serious happening for a medal that you can get next year, because the race is going nowhere. So that's just my bit as well. You have to think about your long-term health and the damage that you could do if you are going against doctor's orders, or if you know in your heart, you know what, I'm like really sick and this could cause some serious damage. Lindsay, I don't know if I asked this question. I don't think I did though. I was thinking about popping it up and then something else popped up. So this is from Mario, and I think there's a lot of people in the same boat as Mario. Mario wants to know, I'm struggling to qualify. Should I rather give up?
No, I don't think so, Mario. I think it depends on the things that you are struggling with and why it is a struggle to qualify. You know, with all of these things, we don't always get all the information, but there is still time to qualify. So the amazing thing about Comrades is that, you know, you've got until the 6th of May to qualify. We always talk about doing like 3 to 4 long runs, and you know, those things aren't as important as we make out. You know, I've worked with quite a lot of people who've struggled to finish and qualify for Comrades in the past, and we've ended up doing one marathon and Comrades, and that one marathon has been quite late, because although I like people to qualify early, one of the things that I always say is qualify when you're ready. And if you do that, then you avoid getting yourself into the situation that you're in, which you're struggling to qualify. So that's kind of eating away at your confidence, and you're wondering if it's possible that you can do this. Whereas at the beginning, if you'd gone, okay, I'm a marginal qualifier, this is where I'm at now. What do I need to do to make sure that I can get good enough to qualify for Comrades? And whether that happens in Feb or late March or late April or early May, you know, we can help you to kind of figure that out and then put a little plan of action in place to give you the best chance to qualify. So, look, if you are up in Joburg and you haven't just tried to qualify, again, I don't know all the ins and outs yet, but one of the things that you can do is to do the Irene Ultra. I actually saw an email today that entries are running out or about to close. The Irene Ultra is 48Ks, and it has the same qualifying time as a 50K, which means that you effectively get a bonus 15 minutes. So I also often send people to races that are 48Ks, or a race that's 52Ks, because a 52 and a 54 have also got the same qualifying time. So again, you get a 15-minute bonus. Yeah, unfortunately, most of the races that are 52Ks also have quite tough routes. So, you know, the Irene is the one that really fits nicely into that. Unfortunately, I think it's not this weekend because it's Easter weekend, but it's the weekend after. So we're talking 10 days away. So that is an option. But yeah, that's I wouldn't give up just yet. You're on mute.
It's like amateur hour here tonight, Lindsay. I was saying the fat lady hasn't even started warming up yet, so definitely not time to quit just yet. There's not lots of time, but there is still time.
There's enough time.
Cool. Yep. If you've got any questions, please do pop them in the chat. We've got lots of questions still coming through. Safiso, I'm going to give you opportunity to put your cap back on. I'll get you on for the next one. So if you want to make sure your hair's good, you're more than welcome to do that. This is a great question from. Let me just get it up there for you, Lindsay. This is from Preppy. Preppy saying, seeing that this is an endurance run, is it necessary to do any high-intensity interval training, or must I just go easy mileage? Great question.
Yeah, Preppy, that's a cool question. And there's so few people that actually work that out for themselves. So it's not necessary to do high-intensity intervals to finish Comrades. They still do have a place in terms of the overall improvement of you as a runner, and importantly, if you're living in an area that doesn't have too many hills around, then doing hill intervals is pretty useful for getting you stronger and preparing you better for running the hills at Comrades. But you absolutely don't need to do high intensity work to finish Comrades. I've run silvers without doing a single interval session in 6 months leading into Comrades. So Comrades is about teaching yourself to grind it out and keep putting one foot in front of the other. So yeah, again, it's the one distance that there is still some benefit to doing intervals. Let me put it that way, but they're really not necessary to get you the time that you want.
Cool, brilliant. Let's get Safiso in here. Safiso, a question from Siabulela. Siabulela is asking, what time do substitutions open on the 1st of April? Someone is eager.
10 a.m.
10 a.m., 1st of April. That's
Yep.
Monday.
Yes, Monday.
What's
we'll
the
have.
sort of, sorry, we
sorry.
keep cutting each other off. Go for it.
Yeah, I think we'll have our team available at the office if just to make sure everything is going well, even though it will be a holiday. So 10 a.m. will be live.
What's the feeling in the office? Are they going to get snapped up pretty quickly? Do people have to, or can they take Monday off and arrive on Tuesday? Do they need to do it on Monday?
Well, I'll say good luck if you want to take a chance, but it will depend. Really depend on how many entries we have on the pool. I haven't touched base with the IT team to check what are the numbers, how many entries will be available. But if maybe I had an idea, we'll have given a good indication whether Tuesday will be good. But I think Monday or Tuesday still be you might still be good, but you better be early than sorry.
Yeah, what do they say? You snooze, you lose. So make sure you get in there. 10 a.m. Monday, make sure you're waiting. Credit cards in hand so that we can hand you your medal when you get to Pietermaritzburg on.
That is correct.
Exactly. Cool stuff. Thanks for that, Sifiso, and a great question. Lindsay, this is also a very cool question. This one from Spitten Language ZA saying, what sort of weekly elevation should we be aiming for per 90 kilometers of mileage?
Yeah, so Brad, I've been the coach since 2006, and I've never been asked that question for this year. Now I've been asked it 2 shows in a row. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a recommendation for that, largely because there's so many people that live in areas where it's flat. I mean, they can't even get 300 meters in a week. I mean, that would be a lot. And then there are other people that can't even go on a 10K run, pick me, without doing like between 300 and 400 meters of climbing in a 10K run. So it's just so varied. And I think the better way of looking at it is that you do want to run some hills. And if you can do some of your long runs, your 25 to 30-kilometer long runs, if those can have like 400 to 600 meters of elevation, 600 is a lot. So, and 400 is a fair amount. I try and target that sort of range. But if you can't, because you live in such a flat area, don't panic. Do your intervals, do your hill repeats on a treadmill if you need to, if there isn't like a flyover or something similar, and do your strength work. I think that's really key. So yeah, like in a 90K week, in Comrades has close to 980 to call it 1,000 meters of elevation in the 85 to 90 kilometers. But that is an extreme amount. And if you target that amount week after week, then you do open yourself up to, in particular, hamstring and glute tendinopathy. So it's not necessarily wise to chase those kind of numbers. But yeah, maybe 300 to 600 meters of climbing in a week would be a good ratio in terms of preparing you for Comrades. Occasionally, if you can and you have the means, like 900. Like I said, like for me, I'm doing probably 200, 250 a day. So I'm doing well over 1,000 a week. But I build up slowly to get to that point. So I think if you live in an area like that, that makes it impossible to avoid hills, then the trick is really to build up to those numbers quite slowly.
Cool, great question. Lindsay, here's one from Gavin. Gavin saying, I'm nursing an ITB overuse injury for the past couple of weeks, ran without pain this week. Is it advisable to still do day 1 and day 3 of the Easter 100 as planned?
Ooh, I probably wouldn't do day 1 because that's the 48K one. And yeah, I think that'll aggravate your ITB if you've just cleared up from it. So I'd basically look to build up over the next 3 weeks and get yourself back up to doing a nice long one like that. So, if you've gotten back up to running like mid-20s and you're totally pain-free, then it might be worth the risk. But my gut says that 48Ks now, when you've just recovered, that's a big risk to re-injuring that ITB.
Cool stuff. Lindsay, here's a question let me whack it up there. It's going to be easier. It's from Pritesh. Just saying, for a sub 10:30 finish target time, is it possible to cover by walking the uphills and then pace running on the flats? First of all, are there any flats at Comrades? I think that's what we need to get out of the way.
Not many. So the answer to that question is that it is possible. You could walk almost all the hills and run fast enough to get a sub 10.5, but it's probably not an advisable way to do it. I mean, if you look at that profile that I popped up earlier, and as you heard Luma saying, it's actually only after you get to Nchanga that you start to get a reasonable number of downs and flattish sections that you can do a lot of running on. So that would mean you'd walk probably 45 of the first 50 kilometers. So I wouldn't walk all of the hills, but you certainly can employ quite an aggressive walking strategy. So you could probably do something along the lines of run 1 minute, walk 2 minutes, run 1 minute, walk 1 minute. So lots of walking, but definitely also a fair bit of running, and you just conserve your energy by walking regularly. And some of the hills at Comrades are very low gradient, like 0.5%, 1%, 1.5%. There's lots of hills on Comrades that are in that kind of 1 to 2% range, and those you can actually run quite comfortably. You just want to make sure that you're not pushing when you run up there. Just really back off and run easy. Still muted.
Thing keeps muting me. I don't know why. Having one of those nights. Lindsay, this is another wonderful question. Pritesh, thank you so much for that question. This is from Eric. Eric saying, building on Preppy Tammy's question, isn't interval training important for when you want to qualify with a C seeding, for instance, given that you might be chasing a PB? Sorry, not a PB, a Bull Rowan. I mean, first of all, Lindsay, should we be chasing? I mean, you mentioned it earlier, chasing seedings now.
Yeah.
Probably not ideal.
Yeah, so Eric, you make a good point though, Eric. Yes, in your qualifying races and training for your qualifying races, interval training definitely has a role. And that's why I did qualify by saying that there's certainly nothing wrong with doing intervals, and intervals will make you a better runner. And then my second point I want to make is I want to reiterate what Brad just said, is that if you haven't qualified with a C seeding yet, then don't try to. I mean, that's your biggest risk. If you're capable of a Bull Run, your biggest risk of the Bull Run is trying to run a 3.5-hour marathon between now and Comrades. So you don't want to do it. And then you probably, again, in answering that previous question, is once you've qualified and you've done your marathon, for the next 10 weeks, how much value will interval training bring to your training rather than the mileage? And if you can run a sub 3-hour 30 marathon, that means you can run a marathon in 5 minutes per K. Comrades is 6 minutes per K. So 6 minutes per K, the limiting factor isn't your speed. The limiting factor is your ability to really just go at 5:55, 5:55, 5:55 for hour and hour and hour after hour. To prepare yourself to do that, you can do it. You can do it with mileage. So that was the question, that the kilometers are more important than the intervals. Should you do no intervals? You can. And if you want to do intervals, you can do intervals, and they will contribute to making you a better runner. But the intervals are probably your highest risk of injury, especially as you get into peak training and you are starting to get tired.
Wonderful question. Here's another one for you, Lindsay. So many great questions tonight. I'm loving this. This one is from Vincent. Vincent's saying, nice seminar. How should we approach the next 2 weeks until Two Oceans and then back into training for Comrades? Great question.
Yeah, so Vincent, the one thing that I didn't stress in there is that it's great to do Two Oceans, but you shouldn't be racing Two Oceans. So over the next 2 weeks, I would train fairly normally, perhaps do a little bit less on the weekend, because I also don't think it's pleasant to do a race like Comrades when you're really tired. But this week and next, I've trained pretty normally, just with the weekend having maybe half of the mileage that was planned. And then the last 3 or 4 days into Oceans, I would do very little running and just go into the race, not tapered, but just with your legs a little bit fresh so that you can enjoy Oceans. And then don't race Oceans. That's important. So use Oceans as that one of your practice runs for Comrades. Run it at around about Comrades race pace. And if you do that, you'll need very little recovery after Oceans. You can take a day or two, then run easy for a few days, boom, and then you're back in Comrades training. If you run harder than you should and your legs are really sore, then rest until there is no pain. You can do a little bit of cycling, maybe some swimming, but you don't run until there's no pain. And then you run very easy for 4, 5, 6 days after that. So you're probably looking at a 10 to 14 day dip in your training, and then you start training properly again.
Awesome stuff. And yeah, Lindsay, I know you're going to be down at 2 Oceans. Are you running, or are you going to be on the side of the road?
I am doing the 1 Ocean.
Oh, you're doing the 1 Ocean. The No Ocean.
The No Ocean.
The
it's
No
actually
Ocean.
The No Ocean. I'm doing the No Ocean, the half marathon.
And then you'll be on the side of the road on the race day for the ultra.
Correct. Yeah.
Cool. So will I. So we're going to look out for you. Make sure you look out for us. It's easier for you to spot us than us to spot you, because we can't see out the other side of the screen. So we don't know who we're looking for. So please make sure that you do so. How's it? If you do see us on the side of the road at Oceans. If you have joined us late too, by the way, please do make sure that you hit subscribe on this YouTube channel. We publish or you can go back and have a look at all the Comrades webinars that we've done up until this point. We also, Lindsay and I, publish a Comrades Marathon podcast called Up every single week on this channel as well. They go out every single Monday morning at 9 a.m. So make sure you don't miss any of those. So make sure you hit the subscribe button too. Lindsay, this just a housekeeping question, and I'm just going to answer this quick from Philip. Philip, will there be an online link for one of the novice seminars? Lindsay, you're obviously going to be doing in-person novice seminars in all the major centers, but we are doing one online as well. I don't know if you know the date offhand. I don't have the date in front of me.
I think it was the 16th of April, but let me quadruple.
While Lindsay's looking for it, Philip, and this applies to everybody else, if you've registered for this webinar, we will send you the details of the novice webinar. So you can join us if you aren't a novice, but as Lindsay said on a recording that we did earlier today, that if you've never done an up run, you're a novice, and because it's been so long since we've done an up run, I think everybody's a novice. So that'll be a really good one to come to as well. Did you manage to find the date, Lindsay?
Yeah, I've got them here in front of me. The 17th of April. That's right.
There we go. Cool. So we'll send out notifications and let you know, but you can also check the Comrades website as well.
I don't know which one's the novice. It's either the 17th or 24th of April. So we've got 2 webinars coming up, 17th and 24th of April. One of those 2 is the novice.
Okay, cool. Question from Zahir. Lindsay, Zahir saying, I'm currently observing Ramadan and have to date run 165 Ks for the month of March. Is this okay for a first-time Comrades runner? You're right on track, Zahir. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. And I'll tell you, the one thing about Ramadan is that you just want to stay consistent, and you don't want to break yourself down too much, and you don't want to get sick. So that's square right on. It's really, in Ramadan, it's just about being consistent. You don't want to do any massive sessions, but you just keep plugging away. And when you come out the other side, you'll be amazed actually how well you respond to that. And then you won't catch up. You'll just pick your training up. You'll do a couple of long runs, maybe one less than everybody else, but that's not a problem. You will still have a really good Comrades.
Yeah, and Lindsay, you said it, I think it was the first webinar we did in January, where we were talking about how much mileage you need to do in order to finish Comrades. And you were saying it's like averaging 40, 50 kilometers a week. So 165 for March is bang on that average. So
no, absolutely. People get very freaked out by the number of minimum of 1,000 Ks between January and race day. But 1,000 Ks is 40 Ks a week, every week from January to race day. Gives you 1,000 Ks. So yeah, you spot it. Bang on.
Cool. Here's an injury question, Lindsay, from Awzar. Awzar saying, I picked up an abductor injury during my qualifying marathon a week ago. What can I do to make sure that I line up in June? Because what is the stat, Lindsay?
Yeah, 68% of people who don't finish Comrades started with an injury. So look, adductor strains are a little bit irritating. They generally don't heal quickly without physio. So you get yourself to a physio, and you shouldn't be out for more than 2 weeks. So if you hurt at doing a marathon, remember that a marathon's going to really top up those fitness levels. So missing 2 weeks after a marathon, not the end of the world. You don't want to miss much more than 2 weeks. So get yourself to a physio, and then that should resolve, and you can get back on track.
Sorry, Lindsay, I'm having a bit of a laugh because Angelique Smith's telling the entire Cape Town running community that they have to greet me. Angelique, I'm going to have my rant because we're in the deep end of this webinar. We're all friends. We've been here long enough. You might not have seen the first one, and this is to everybody watching, but I live in Cape Town, and I'm amazed at how people in Cape Town just don't greet. I started running in Johannesburg, and everybody greets everybody in Johannesburg. But in Cape Town, I don't know if I look like I'm going to mug them, or I don't know what it is. Nobody wants to greet me. So, Angelique, you're spot on. It's gotten slightly better, but it's still not 100%. Definitely not 100%. Cape Town does need to lift their game. Lindsay, I just looked at the time. Holy smokes, we've been going for 2 hours. I'm going to squeeze in one more question if that's good. I know it's been a long day for all of us. And then let me just find a good one, because there were some really, really good ones. And this one, I think this one's really important because it's a health-related question. And I think there might be some other people with similar sorts of questions. And obviously, we don't want to be giving medical advice on a webinar like this, but it's from Jonathan. Jonathan saying, I had a pulmonary embolism in September 2023. How important is an ECG stress test before Comrades?
Look, I'm not sure that the ECG stress test is the most important part there, but certainly a checkup with a specialist physician, so either with a cardiologist or with a sports physician. So I know the guys at Rosebank do a very good medical checkup. When I came back from Boston last year, and I was very concerned about my health, and they did do a resting ECG. They sent me for a stress ECG, so it'll probably be part of the package. But yeah, if I'd had a pulmonary embolism, even your treating physician, because you probably need to go for a checkup and that sort of thing. Jonathan, definitely, I would go back to your treating physician there, have a checkup. But yeah, it's a good thing to be thinking about, and I wouldn't take chances with it.
Yeah, Lindsay, and I think that's important to say as well. I mean, obviously, it's very difficult to give specific medical advice on platforms like this. And whether it's a webinar that we do, or if it's a Facebook group that you're in, I see it all the time. I'm sure you do too, people asking specific medical questions. If you are worried about something medical, particularly something that could be life-threatening, the best place to go is to a doctor. You're not going to get the right answer from Dr. Facebook or Dr. YouTube. So yeah, if you are concerned, definitely seek medical advice to put your mind at ease, just to make sure. Rather be safe than sorry. I think that is probably the best way to go. Lindsay, parting shot from you before I wrap things up this evening.
Yeah, very cool show, and really cool questions that everybody can learn from. It was great having Louis on. I must say that this year's webinars and roadshows, probably the most enjoyable thing for me is listening to these guys that go on for years and years and years. Looking forward to when we have some female athletes that have run 30, 35, 40. So I'm sure they probably do things even smarter than the men do. But yeah, on a more serious note, I'm still just really excited that it's an up run. It is a different kind of challenge. And just get out there, be safe, and be consistent. Make sure you recover. And if you do get injured, do something about it. Yeah, until next time, I hope I see you all at the next novice show in Cape Town for those that are in Cape Town, in Durban when I get to Durban, and on the next webinar if you're in neither of those places.
Yeah, and you can get all those dates on comrades.com. You can get all the dates for those in-person seminars that are happening around the country, as well as the online webinars that we are doing. I just want to say a very special thank you to all our guests this evening. Thank you to Sifiso Ngoma from the Comrades Marathon Association for his time tonight. Also, Nikki de Villiers, dietitian. If you joined the call later and you missed Nikki's chat, I would really suggest you go back and watch the recording again. It's really going to help you get your Comrades medal come June. And then just a huge, huge thank you to Comrades Marathon legend Louis Massain for joining us tonight. What a great story, and just so inspiring to have had such a phenomenal Comrades journey. And then to Lindsay, you as well, thank you for your time tonight. Much appreciated. And to everybody who joined us, we know that there's lots of choices of where you can spend your time, and we really appreciate you spending your time with us this evening. If you do have any questions, please do jump onto the Coach Parry forum. You can also jump onto the Comrades Marathon social media pages as well. We look forward to helping you on the rest of your journey to Comrades Marathon 2024. Take care, everyone. Stay safe, and we look forward to catching up again soon. Bye-bye.